just remind everyone to mute your phones. Just make sure that we don't get any feedback or anything during our presentation this morning. All right. Well, we're extremely excited to have this webinar. We're excited from multiple standpoints. One of them is that we're excited about rolling out career pathways statewide. We've been doing it in some programs periodically for the last year or so, but we are now going to be expanding that statewide. We're very excited about that, the opportunities for us, for you, and ultimately for the students. And that's what it's all about. It's all about how we better serve our student population out there. And we're going to be able to put some additional funding into your budgets to help you with career pathways. We feel like it's very important to make sure that you have seed dollars available to you to leverage with your existing adult education resources and other resources from partners out there. And this funding is specifically designed to help you do that. So it's a way of just escalating the process for career pathways, ensuring that you all have the opportunities to develop and implement pathways. Hopefully by this semester, have some things going. So that's why it's a very aggressive timeline that you'll see that we're on this morning, but we'll cover all this in detail for you. And then also want to just say we have some excellent staff. They've done a wonderful job of putting this together. Feel free to contact any of them at any time to follow up with any questions that you may have on this project. But we're extremely excited about what we're going to share with you this morning, the opportunity that we have not only for the programs but ultimately for the students of this state. So we're going to get started with the PowerPoint this morning. Danielle, if you will. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the challenge, but I think you all know the challenge that we're facing is specifically here in Alabama. Illiteracy really impacts everything that we do in our state, and it really impacts economic development and the workforce of the future. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything possible to ensure that we're working with the population in a way that we're moving them forward, preparing them with the skills and abilities to be successful in the world of work. That's what it's all about. We also know that how important adult education is to our student population out there, from societal health care, public assistance, incarceration costs. I mean, what we are able to do through adult ed reduces all of this. So we need to continue to do that. We have the Leaky Pipeline, if you will. And let me just take a few minutes to stay on this visual. Basically, this is a pipeline showing students going through the P-12 system, then going into college or into training, vocational ed, and then obviously adult ed. We put adult ed in the middle here. Now, I wanted to emphasize that from the standpoint of, if you look at the leaky pipeline, the crack in the pipeline there, it starts around the 8th, 9th, 10th grade is when people start dropping out of the system. It's imperative that we get these students back into an adult education program so we can get them back into a pipeline to college or into vocational ed training. It's vitally important for the workforce development of our state to do that from an economic development standpoint. We have to do that. And even the people who don't drop out but do complete their senior year and come out with a high school diploma, we know for some of those individuals, their skill level still may be on the 8th or 9th grade level. They still haven't developed skill-wise to truly be successful in college or into other training programs. That's why our developmental education is so, it increases year after year. That's something that we need to be aware of. So we've got students without a high school diploma that definitely needs our services. We also have people that may have a high school diploma or a GED but still need our services to really prepare them for the workforce. So we play a vital role there. Adult education with a purpose. That's what I want us to really focus on. We need to have a focus for going into the future. And really, this is a word, a simple word, but purpose really, I think, validates what we do in the field of adult education. This is a word that was used recently in the national training that staff and I attended in D.C. when Cheryl Keenan said we have to have adult education with a purpose. So we need rigor, we need to look at relevance, we need to look at results. And if we have the rigor, we obviously make learning relevant to the needs of the student and to the needs of the workforce and needs of the community, then we're obviously going to have good quality results as well. All right, so what does adult ed mean, and what does that relevant and rigorous instruction mean? Well, provide relevant and rigorous instruction through the implementation of IETs, or integrated education and training models. And we want to make sure that these models are aligned with college and career readiness standards, okay? If we do that, then we will ensure that our students are ready for success. Education, training, standards equals success. This is not just us making that up. That is from the national research. It shows that when you start contextualizing academics, you're really making the learning relevant in a way where it's really pays dividends from the standpoint of success, and ensuring that our students come out with stackable credentials, certificates, things that will lead to employment. So that's what we're trying to focus on here. So innovative strategies is what we're wanting to look at. Career pathways, bridge programs, ready to work, employment preparation services. Those are some of the innovative things that we need to be doing to ensure that our students are ready for the workforce. So we want to make sure that we do those different programs in a way that leads to quality, that leads to outcomes. And we want to make sure that we're cultivating and engaging learning environments. And you know, that's what it's all about. We've got to have engaging environments to make sure that what we're teaching is relevant to the student, they're understanding it, and it's something that's applicable to real life, world life application, okay? That's what it's about. Adult education, obviously this is specifically from WIOA. It's kind of a summary, but basically adult ed in concert with state partners is charged to develop a skilled workforce that meets the needs of states, business, and industry. Now, adult ed is not alone in this. That's why I'm asking you to make sure that you're getting your partners at the table with you. Your partners under WIOA, Title I, Title II obviously is us, Title III and IV, that's Folk Rehab, Wagner Pizer. Career Technical Education is a partner we need to be working with. That's an in-house partner for many of our programs. We have 24 programs through the Community and Technical College, so your in-house partners on technical ed is very important. So I hope many of them are in the room with you this morning, and I think they are. I hope that there's some presidents listening as well, because this is critical as we move forward. We've got to have everybody working together. Let me spend a little time on this process chart. And again, staff worked hard on developing this and taking obviously resources from other presentations and bringing this in. But if we look at this 6 steps here, and it's basically the first thing we want to do is build cross-agency partnerships and clarify roles. It's very important on the local level that you all get together with your partners and you talk about who's going to do what. How do we make this work from a career pathway standpoint? Because I tell you, the partners want training. They want training that's going to lead to employment. They can definitely place people into employment, but they need to make sure that the people before they place them has the skills and abilities to do the job. So that's where we come in. We're the training agency. Adult ed can do the adult basic academic remediation. They contextualize those skills. We work with our technical partners to do the technical training, and then we prepare the students for employment opportunities. We need to make sure that number 2 there, identify the sector, industry, and engage employers. How do we look at those sector strategies within our area? Basically, let me break that down to common terms. What's the jobs that are available in your area? The good paying, sustainable wage jobs. What are they? And you know what those are. You know if you have jobs in the automobile industry, welding, if you have jobs shipbuilding, aeronautics, any of those type of jobs available within your area. You also know that there's other jobs that may support those higher level sector area. So what's some of the jobs that supports that? Like the certified nurse's aide would support healthcare. So what's some things where we can work with our students on getting them in to training that's going to lead to sustainable wage jobs and leading to them getting the skills and abilities to be successful. And then we've got to design our education and training programs. This is where you have your internal team. You guys come together. You work together on how you're taking the academic side of things. You're melding it. You're merging it. You're integrating it with the training side of things, the vocational ed side of it. So how do you do that? What does that look like? So you need to get with your team on working together on that. Identify your funding needs and sources. We're providing you some additional funding. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that in a few minutes, about the funding. We'll be sending a letter out to the presidents this afternoon, letting them know the additional funding that will be coming to your program to do career pathways, bridge programs, and expansion of ready to work and expansion of employment preparation services and getting people ready for the workforce. And then obviously align policies and programs. We need to take a look at your local policies and things that you can align to make sure that your policies, your programs, your partnerships are aligned in a way to meet the needs of the Career Center, to meet the needs of the students. So how do you blend that in a way where it's a win-win situation? You know, what we do is going to make the Career Center better, okay, because they are now going to be able to get the training that they desperately need to ensure that their students are able to be placed into employment opportunities. So we need to make sure that we play that role, and we play that role well from an academic standpoint, and we make sure that when they leave us, they have stackable credentials that will be able to lead to employment. So that's where the Career Centers can help us from the placement standpoint. We don't necessarily have to follow up and track them. Let's let our partners, our Career Centers, do that side of it. We do the academic, the technical support piece of it. Let them do the placement piece of it. So those are some things that you need to continue to think about as you're building pathways. And that kind of wraps up that full circle. But I kind of went through it a little quick, but again, we're going to be providing you more information on this. You're going to have your adult ed specialist to work with and helping you with some of these thought processes on developing career pathways. And then we also have, I'll go ahead and share, we've developed some career pathways, frequently asked questions that I'll be covering some of those at the end, but we created about 30 to 40 different questions that we feel like will be things that you guys will be interested in hearing the answer to. So we went ahead and was proactive in creating that. So we'll be sending that out to you as well. Let's take a look at this slide for a moment. Career pathways, how does it fit? Okay, obviously we want to start from the adult education side of it. So that first block is secondary ed. I think many of you are probably aware of how dual enrollment works in our state. Well, adult career pathways is kind of similar to dual enrollment, but the difference I want to really highlight to you is from the standpoint of it's so important, and you've heard me mention it multiple times, the contextualized side of it and the support side of it that adult ed brings to the table. Sometimes with dual enrollment, it's basically a technical instructor that's going into the high schools to teach a program, okay? With adult career pathways, we're actually team planning, team teaching, and supporting constantly what's going on within that technical program, for example, okay? We also are helping people who do not have a high school diploma with the skills and abilities to also attain that GED, that high school equivalent. So we're working in the adult ed services, the GED services, the support, the contextualization, in with the technical program. So we're doing this really simultaneously. So many things that we do is sequential. You have to get a GED before you go on to the next step. What we're trying to do with some of these pathway programs is do things simultaneously, because many of the same skills to help someone get a GED are those same skills that will help someone actually get a technical certificate or diploma. So it's just really working smarter and not harder, and it's making the learning relevant to the students. Sometimes they end up dropping out of our programs because they can't see the relevancy of what we do. If we do pages and pages of just drill and practice, they're not understanding how in the world that relates to them going into a technical program, into an academic program, or going straight into the world of work. So we have to make what we're doing on the basic skills side relevant to the learners so they understand why this matters and why it's so important. So it's critical that we make the learning relevant. And that's going to be a term I use probably multiple times today, but relevancy. We've broken this up into about 5 stages, okay? I'm not going to go into each one of them in detail, but I do want to share with you, we have created a PowerPoint that has 5 stages of really assisting you with developing a career pathway. So the first thing is conceptualize what you want to do. Make sure that you're thinking about all the opportunities within your area and design pathways that's going to help your students get the skills and abilities to be successful in employment and to get those jobs that's available within your area. So make sure you're designing it in a way where you're matching it to the jobs available within the area. Define your career pathways. Obviously it's something you're going to have to do is from the standpoint of why are you selecting this pathway? What does it look like? Why is it meeting the needs of business and industry in your area? Why is it so important that you do this pathway? And how is it going to lead to students being successful? So you're turning the idea into a concept. Keep in mind who we serve. Obviously, I've mentioned this before, but let me cover it real quick. Adults without a high school diploma or GED, that's a no-brainer. You all know that. Population without is automatically eligible for our services. We also can work with students who already have a high school diploma or GED or high school equivalency, but are basic skill deficient, and that is assessed on the TABE assessment. So we need to make sure that we're making our services available to that population as well. Stage 2 is basically creation. Get your local data. I've mentioned that to you before. Look at the labor market information, LMI, what's the needs within the area. Talk to your partners, your local workforce boards and councils in your area, the career centers, employers, existing career and technical programs. We've passed out multiple times a document that I think Technical Education, Gene Dudley and his staff had developed for dual enrollment purposes. We can use that same sheet that ranks all the different programs that we have in our community college system, ranks it by 1, 2, and 3. Obviously 1 is the most timely. That's the ones we need to focus on. So we will be passing that information out once again to you. So if you don't have it, we'll send it out again, but I think we've provided it multiple times. And then obviously we want to make sure that we're recruiting and marketing what we're doing, and then making sure that we have all the partners that we need at the table. The more we have, the more successful we're going to have from a partner standpoint. And make sure that we look at opportunities to braid funding. Basically that's where we can use our funding. We can use funding from the career centers. They have scholarship funds, ITA, which is training dollars that they can put into. DHR has a lot of money when it comes to SNAP recipients and also TANF. So Senior Services is another partnership we're working on at the state level, but they have resources as well for seniors 55 and older, and also individuals that may not be seniors, but they may have a mental or physical disability. They're also eligible. So there's a lot of funding out there. Stage 3 is really constructing it. So partnerships, we talked about funding, and then the credentials. What are you going to be awarding? Now, I want to pause here for a minute from the standpoint of How do you develop this? Does it have to be a semester-based? Can it be short-term? It can be all of the above. It doesn't have to be a semester-based program, but we think you may want to have a semester-based program as one of your pathways. You also may want to have some short-term training, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. You can develop it to meet the needs of your clients, your students, and then also your partners out there. So there's a lot of opportunities to do things differently. If you look at the Ready to Work program, it's a program that spans from 6 to 10 weeks, and it varies by different areas, but that is something that you could look at doing as well. So how do you get adult ed more involved in that? Create your partnerships. We've listed just a few of the many, many partners that's probably out there within your area that's more than happy to work with you and that wants to work with you, that needs your expertise from an academic and training standpoint to be a partner with. So make sure that you actually look at all the different partners out there that you can work with. Communicate the desire, create the environment. So leadership, managerial support, administrative instructional support that's needed, student community support. It's important for everyone to know who, what, when, why, how you are doing these things. We've also put together a slide for potential funding sources. Again, I've kind of touched upon that, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but you can see different funding sources that's available. All right, ability to benefit. We put together about 3 slides on this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but the Pell Grant is back and available for students who do not have a high school diploma but are in a eligible career pathway. And that's what we're developing, eligible career pathways. So we can secure ability to benefit Pell Grant funding to support our needs as well. So always consider that. There's about 3 pages on that. Let's skip over that. All right. Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, individual training accounts is another funding source. I'd mentioned that earlier. Scholarships, ITAs are available for adults. Out-of-school youth, which they classify as 18 to 24, but they're out of school, so they're still what we would classify as young adults. And then we have the traditional adult population, and then dislocated workers. Anyone who has been dislocated because of a plant closure or going into another state or into another country would be eligible for our services. So anybody who's a dislocated worker is eligible as well. Potential career pathway credentials awards, we've listed some things. Apprenticeship is on there as well. Our state is really looking at ramping up apprenticeship efforts. I want adult ed at the table. So if you hear anything locally going on within your college, within your community about apprenticeship, jump to the table. Don't wait for an invitation. Go ahead and go to the table. Make sure they're aware of what you bring from an academic standpoint to apprenticeship programs. It's very important that we do that. Stage 4 is contextualization, making it relevant. So when you develop a pathway, how do you make it relevant? We need to make sure that everything that we do is relevant to the needs of the employer, to the needs of the student, to our needs, to the labor market information. So make sure that everything is relevant. All right, planning and delivery models. Again, won't spend a lot of time here, but basically look at it from the standpoint of adult career pathways need to have a team planning piece of it. That's where your technical instructor, for example, and your adult ed instructor will plan and talk about the program, how the academics is going to be contextualized, how they do team teaching. Team teaching may be a part of this as well, where adult ed goes into the technical classroom. Or there was an example, I think Gwen at Lawson State had created a model where the technical instructor came into the adult ed classroom. That will work as well, as long as the students are getting that academic support. All right, there's more information on team teaching and team planning. Here, let's spend a little time on this one. Adult ed and career pathways, helping each other put the pieces together. That's what it's all about. How do we ensure that we're working together from a partner standpoint? Internal partners at the college, internal partners within our organization, if we're United Way Goodwill, those internal partners, for our Target County Family Support, those internal partners, and then how do we also look at career centers, employers, or partners? How do we all work together to make this work? Okay. All right. Here's just the overall program goal. I think you all have seen this before, but this is really our charge to ensure that we want to make sure all Alabamians are literate and they attain the knowledge and skills for employment, self-sufficiency. They're able to be better parents from the standpoint of supporting their children's education and what they're doing in education, and then obviously helping people without a high school diploma to get that GED or equivalent. All right, so here we go specifically into adult career pathways that I want to really make sure that everyone fully understands of what we're doing here. Here's our next steps, okay? Today, your president will receive a funding allocation letter, okay? That's going to go out this afternoon. It will have the funding amounts that you will be receiving to do career pathways, to assist you in doing career pathways. And remember, this is supportive dollars to be used. It's funding that is limited, meaning that it has a time frame on it. We're going to address that in a few minutes, but it needs to be used by a certain time frame. We also will be providing you frequently asked questions. So again, I mentioned it earlier, but we were proactive. We created about 30 to 40 frequently asked questions. We'll be sending those out as well. You also will be getting other forms. You'll be getting a form to help you develop your pathway. You'll get some narrative questions. You'll also get some financial forms as well. That will be going out to you as well very quickly. Here's something that we want you to do, and this is part of the overall framework. We're providing a framework, creating an opportunity here for you all to share with us what your career pathway project is going to be about. So we're going to have you come into Montgomery, everyone come in, you can bring your teams. Go back to that question, Danielle, don't leave it yet. We're going to have you come in and actually present your career pathway project, okay? Now, there's a pretty aggressive timeline on this because what we're wanting to do is give programs the opportunities, if they want to do something this semester, to get it going this semester. So we do have an aggressive timeline. Doesn't mean that your plan has to be final. What you're doing is you're presenting a plan. You're going to hear everyone else present their plans. This is a great opportunity for you to hear what your colleagues are creating, because it may allow you to have some of those aha moments where you say, hey, I didn't think about this. I want to make sure I'm implementing and integrating this into my career pathway. So we're going to have everyone present about 10 to 15 minutes. We want to encourage you to bring your partners, so your internal partners and any of your career center partners or extended partners that have helped you develop this can come along with you to help present if you want them to come and if they want to come and can come. But we would encourage that. We also want to make sure that you have a narrative and spending plan. We'll give you time after you present your project. You'll have time to finalize your narrative and your spending plan, okay? So we're going to give you additional time after you present to finalize everything. And again, I hate to use the word final because the way we see this is something that's a living, breathing document. This is something that when you create it, you may say you're going to do a short-term program 4 to 6 weeks, and you realize that that's too short. You need to do it maybe 8 to 10 weeks. We're going to allow you to have flexibility to do that and to change some of those things. So it's a document that you do have some flexibility on, but we want to make sure that you have multiple career pathways. Each program out there is getting a significant amount of funding where you can design multiple pathways. So you can have maybe a semester-based program, you can have multiple short-term programs, you can extend some ready-to-work stuff, you can extend bridge programs, you can extend EPS programs, you can extend a lot of different programs you already have. And what I want to make sure, before I go into the FAQ part of it, I want to make sure that I take an opportunity to kind of just share with you that all the students you can draw into this program. Sometimes we limit what we do in our programs to students that's already in our seats, that's in our programs in adult ed. Yes, you can pull from that population, but I can tell you right now, you're not going to get everyone that's in adult ed into a pathway or into a pathway that you create. It may not be enough. So what we need to do is expand that vision and thinking to all the partners that we have out there. The career centers, I've mentioned them multiple times, they have students that they want to put into pathway programs and training programs. How do we go to them? How do we get them to send people to us? How do we make our students who are in adult ed, if they haven't been registered through a career center, how do we get them to register in a career center? So our career centers can help us with placement of those students. How do we also work with DHR, the TANF recipients, the SNAP recipients? How do we work with that population? And then internally, this is the biggest population, is our developmental education population. How do we look at internally within the college, people that are in developmental ed, how can we get those students actually in adult ed where they're not using their Pell Grant and funding for non-credit courses, but they're actually coming through adult ed, and adult ed is in the career pathway program. That's something that we can look at, and those students will be eligible for our services, because if they weren't eligible, they wouldn't be in developmental ed in the first place. So when we TABE assess them, I'm sure in reading, math, or language, they would assess within the range for us to work with those students. Here's some frequently asked questions that we just pulled out. I had staff pull out just a handful for us to just kind of to address verbally with you and on this recording today. Number one, does every program have to have an adult career pathway? And we're talking about programs as being fiscal agents that we contract with. And the answer is yes. We want everyone to have a career pathway type program. And basically the common term that we use a lot is integrated education and training. A career pathway could be semester-based, could be short-term, could be a bridge program, could be working with ready to work and employment preparation. So we've expanded that to several things that will help you there, but the answer is yes. Now, do you have to have every location, every class that you have in your program to do a pathway? The answer is no. You're going to have some areas that you can't physically do a pathway, but what you can do is integrate those employability preparation skills and life skills into every class you have. But will it be specifically to a pathway? Maybe not, but we can definitely integrate those employability life skills that we need to be integrating anyway into our program of study, and we can also contextualize our academics where the learning is relevant. You know, we've got to look at the population we're serving. We have a lot of millennials out there we're serving, and guys, with the millennial population, and I addressed this at the conference, that's a population that they want things, they want it now, and we've got to make sure that it's relevant. If not, we're going to lose them, and we've got to make sure that we're integrating technology into everything we do from the standpoint of engaging them. So, you know, I think this career pathways is something that will engage our millennial population, our younger adults who are going through a program. And really the millennial generation goes up to 35 years of age. So, you know, the argument could be they're not, many of them aren't young either. They're up in the middle age category. So does the pathway class have to be designed around the semester, or is there a specific time period for a pathway class? I think I've already addressed that, but the answer to that is it doesn't have to be semester-based. That's one way of doing the pathway, but it could also be short-term, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 4 weeks, 10 weeks. You design it to meet the needs. Will the pathway program require managed enrollment? Well, I think any program you're going to do that's connected with a semester base or connected with ready to work or bridge programs are structured. So it will be a structured program that will be managed. It'll have a start date and end date. You can't do it otherwise. There's no way around that. Also, can we allocate funds to attend national, regional career pathways, professional development meetings, or coursework? Yes, there's a lot of things on there from links and other resources that are free, and some may not necessarily be free, but it's designed around pathways that will help you understand career pathways. And you could also attend those regional conferences as well. Important dates, here's the dates I mentioned earlier. August 1st to May 31st. That's an important date from the funding standpoint. Okay, when we release the letter, your funding will be available to you beginning August 1st, but we need those funds expended by May 31st. Your adult ed accountant can give you more detail on that process. They're going to be sending out forms and documentation, and feel free to contact them with any questions around this. August 9th, that's the date that we're planning for you all to do your presentations. This is your framework presentations, okay? It doesn't have to be perfect, but it gives us an idea of what you're planning, what you're proposing, partners you've got engaged, and also you get to hear from everyone else that's presenting. So this is a learning opportunity for you all to learn from one another and to actually be able to hopefully leave with maybe a better plan than you actually arrived with, okay? And then August 16th is going to be the submission of the Pathway Project Plan. We want that submitted by August 16th. I told you it's an aggressive timeline, but the reason for that is we want to make sure that you get these up and going. The expectation from the federal government is that we're going to get these up and going. We can do this. We need to set expectations and make sure that we're living up to those expectations. That's why we have those timelines the way they are. Expenditure information, again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but Kim and Marilyn will be able to address any questions you have on that. But that's some of the quarterly submissions of the spending report when you create it. This is the timeline for doing that, and they'll have the process for you to do that, okay? Financial records, we want to make sure that you keep all the records of every dollar you spend on this. You've got to keep that documentation and those records, and make sure that you have that on file ready for the specialists or for the auditors to come out and review. More data documentation required. Career pathway students will be placed in ASAP. Paula's created a type for that career pathway type that you'd be selecting in ASAP. She can cover that with you if you have any questions, but I think it's been covered before. It was something that we actually introduced last year. So it's been out there for a while, but there is a career pathway category or type that we allow you all to have. Stage 5, and this wraps up the stages, the 5 stages that the group created, but culmination, maintaining and sustaining. Basically, we want to make sure this is sustainable. We're providing you some seed dollars to get it going, but this is really changing the way we do business and ensuring that we use our adult ed funding in the future to do pathways. You know, we'll be putting out a request for funding proposal in January, February for providers to begin in July the 1st of 2017. That is a requirement under WIOA. The federal government requires us to do that. Within that proposal, I can tell you right now, there'll be a lot of things around career pathways, okay? That's the way the federal government is requiring us to go. So we're being proactive in getting you ahead of the game to get you ready for integrated education and training career pathways. So we're proactive rather than reactive on this, okay? You want to make sure in your culmination stage, it's all about return on investments, results, tracking students, making sure students are successful, and you want to make sure that you're promoting and marketing this, okay? All right, just a couple more slides on career pathways, but again, I'm not going to go into it in depth, but we've got it there for you. Accountability, measure your progress, and then results for students. And that's it. Okay. Any specific questions?
This is Chris Miller. In the past, ready-to-work students have not been allowed to be placed in ASAP. Is that changing now?
If adult ed is involved, Chris, with Ready to Work, and you're actually designing this where you're working with Ready to Work, or team teaching with them, they're getting that additional training needed for employment, then yes, those students can be put in to the ACCS system. So you're working with that program hand in hand to ensure that it's an integrated type training model. So
we're actually implementing the program.
You're working with, and in some instances you may actually be expanding what's already going on with Ready to Work. There's some areas that don't have a Ready to Work, so adult ed could actually come in and do some of that if they want to. So there's a lot of potential there for training.
Just let me clarify then that in my Ready to Work program, I can now enroll those Ready to Work students in ASAP.
You want to make sure that these students are adult ed eligible students and that they're your students that are taking advantage of training programs, okay, where you're working with Ready to Work. You're not going down the hallway getting a student roster from Ready to Work and enrolling these into ASAP. That's not what we're saying here, okay? What we're saying is
I have my own Ready to Work program is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And your comment was that the Ready to Work students can now be enrolled in ASAP. I'm just asking for clarity. Can my Ready to Work students in the Ready to Work program that I have funded be enrolled in ASAP?
And the answer is yes. If you're doing Ready to Work, answer is yes, absolutely. And we want to encourage that. That's what we're talking about from integrated education training. You're absolutely right. Okay?
Okay.
And your bridge students as well.
My second question is, are any of these funds going to be allowed for tuition in the different training programs?
That's a great question. These dollars are not for tuition, okay? This is not tuition dollars. These are for direct service dollars. So it could pay for direct service for a technical instructor, but it is not, they're not going to be used for tuition, okay? And we will clarify that, and I think that is clarified in the frequently asked questions.
And my last question is, for those of us who are not certified for any kind of training dollars, is there a plan to get the colleges more in line with that program? For funding.
Are you talking about ability to benefit with the Pell Grant?
Yes. That's what you were talking about, correct?
I mentioned Pell Grant is an eligible funding source for students without a high school diploma that's in career pathways. So
right,
that's
but
something
Calhoun
that
is not a Ready to Work college, so I'm wondering how that would work with those of us who are not, you know.
Well, and Chris, that's just something we'd have to work with individually with your college on that. If you're not a college that accepts that, then you would be using the resources that we have provided you. You'll be using resources that you'll be getting from partners and career centers. So you wouldn't have access to that ATB until you are a college that actually...
Yeah, that'll limit my ability to put people in pathways without any funding for their tuition. So I was just wanting to clarify that. Thank you.
Well, I don't want to say it limits your ability. Actually, your career centers has a lot of funding out there, and especially DHR, Department of Human Resources, and SNAP. They have a lot of funding when it comes to those education and training for food stamp recipients, and then also temporary assistance for needy families. That population has a lot of resources, so your EPS program will allow you to use funding as well on this. So you have a lot of potential out there. All programs do. Good question. Anything else?
Can you send a copy of the PowerPoint to everybody?
Absolutely.
We're going to have a link on the website.
I'm going to let Wendy address that. Wendy, go ahead.
We spoke with IT, and it's going to be too large because it's a recording including voice recording. So we're going, after it's over, we'll see a link out on our website, and we'll send you an email when it's available.
Okay. Well, we're extremely excited about this. We feel like it's something that's really going to help you all hit the ground running when it comes to career pathways. I've talked to multiple presidents out there. They are extremely excited about this potential, and we have many presidents who have a lot of experience around career pathways, either in other states or in-state with the middle school program. I think several years ago, middle college program, there were some things that is similar. I don't want to say that this is a middle college because it's not exactly set up that way. It's much different, but there may be some things that you could take from that to help you as you design your pathway program. So again, we're very excited about this. Feel free to contact staff with more information on any of this. If there's no more questions, then we'll conclude our conference. Any questions? Anything, staff, that I left out that I need to reiterate?
No, I think you're good.
David, this is
Go ahead.
David, this is Leslie Cummings at Bevel State, and I just wanted to say thank you for offering this webinar. We're excited at Bevel to start something new and try this approach to supporting our students. So thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Leslie. And you have a president there that is very experienced in career pathways. Yes. He actually was very experienced in some work in Kentucky around career pathways, so he knows exactly what needs to be done around that. So
yeah, we're excited. Thank you.
Perfect.
David,
thank you.
David, this is Kelly Jones at Wallace-Hansville.
Hey,
How
Kelly.
are you?
I'm doing great.
Got a quick question. For those of us who currently have something similar to what you're talking about, that are using external grants, can we, but we want to beef it up. In other words, we want to provide a more solid intake process and also a more solid follow-through that makes it the current program that we have a more smooth pathway for not only the GED students, but those that are already in college that are lacking those basic skills. Are these funds, can they, like, in other words, you're telling we can merge some of this and make what we currently have stronger. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Or does it have to be completely different?
No, this is something that you can use to braid, and it's called braided funding. It's basically an opportunity for you to expand and build on what you've already created from other funding sources out there to really take it to the next level. Because it's all about how many students can we truly prepare for the workforce, and that's a that's a number that can continue to grow based on the funding you have available. So don't limit yourself, expand that, take an opportunity to really expand what you're doing from a quality standpoint and from a service standpoint of providing additional services to populations that's not been availed up to this point of those services. So this is your opportunity to grow that. So answer is yes.
Okay, good.
One more thing that, and Kim and Marilyn, I'm sure will be having individual conversations with you all on the forms and the budget, because it's a little different process than what we've used in the past. We'll actually be giving you funding up front, because we felt like it's vitally important that you have resources up front immediately at your disposal. So it's going to be very similar to how you've done funding for drawing down for the GED test from other colleges, but we're going to be providing that in each of your individual budgets. Okay, so you'll be getting a funding from us very soon, probably before the end of the month. Okay, so be watching for that. Okay, and that is a little different from this. We are allowing these to expand, and the reason for that, to cross fiscal years, is the reason for that is we want to make sure that you get some things off and running this semester. We can't afford to wait until January, February to get some of these things going. So this gives you an opportunity to get things going now. Okay? All right. Any other questions? Thank you very much. It's been good. Again, it seems like I'm always apologizing for my voice, but for some reason it's kind of giving out on me. But I think I was able to get through it, and this was just a a great conference. I hope it brought some clarity to what we're wanting you all to do. I think what you're going to experience when you come in here and you actually present to one another, that's going to be one of the best experiences you'll have around Pathways, because you'll get to hear what other programs are doing out there and how you can maybe tweak and change some things that you thought you were going to do to really serve a greater population than you even imagined you could serve. And that's what it's all about. How do we serve as many as we possibly can through a quality standpoint to ensure that we have successful outcomes? So it's all about skills and abilities. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you, team, for all your support. They did some great work, and we will be getting this information out to you all, okay, very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.